Pause.
We've got one of them too.
At this time, I'd like to call the December 1st, 2022 regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh to order at 5 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Currently, will you please conduct the roll call?
Mayor Rosenbacher, Councilor Canales,
Here.
Councilor Kelly,
Here.
Councilor Gibb, here, Councilor Talon, Councilor Bob, here, Councilor Moore,
Here. All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the November 17th, 2022 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll now entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Councilor Bob, second by Councilor Canales. Any changes, alterations, deletions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. I'll now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council on any topic. Please come to the podium to be acknowledged, and when called upon, we do ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record. In accordance with the organizational rules of order, all speakers will be given 5 minutes to address the council. Seeing none, we'll now go on to committee reports. Each standing committee is chaired by a councilor. I'll now call upon the chairperson of each committee, starting with city operations, Councilor Bob.
Well, we have not yet had our meeting this month. It'll be coming on the 12th. However, we do have some exciting city events going on this weekend. We've got the tree lighting happening Saturday. There's a lot of other great events coming on downtown. So hopefully we'll see lots of big faces out.
Finance and Economic Development meeting is next Thursday. I believe it's the 8th. We will be addressing a number of items, including conversations about progress with the crate bid. We do have a few conversations or questions regarding the budget that we're expecting to address. Hopefully we can get some of those questions provided so that we can become prepared to that meeting. We will start that meeting at 5 p.m. as normal. City Infrastructure Council.
No, I don't have anything to report. We'll be having our next meeting this Monday, December 5th.
Public Safety Councilor Canales.
Nothing to report, next safety meetings on Wednesday.
We'll now move on to liaison reports. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Talon.
Well, last Saturday was very exciting, and Mr. Ben has been given the honor of being the Grand Marshal for our holiday parade, so we're very excited about that, and I think some of us on council are very excited about judging the parade too, right?
Can't wait.
So, there's that, also, didn't know the mayor is giving the cue the city, well, nice surprise
Yeah.
too, so that's all I have to report today.
Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, Councilor Gibbs.
I don't have any updates. We are scheduled to have our next meeting at the end of this month.
Mr. Sneller, any staff member reports? No reports. There are no special committee reports. I'll now report in the various departments, the payroll of the various departments that council approved. The council approved that the various city department of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending November 23rd, 2022 in the amount of $5,041.55 and November 30th, 2022 in an amount of $619,317.95. I'll also report the audit of claims that the council approved. The bills audited by the common council for the weeks ending November 25th, 2022 were in the amount of $1,368,861.18 and December 2nd, 2022 in the amount of $935,176.53. Before voting on the following resolutions, I'll note that the majority of these resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees and department heads, and we're now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendations of those committees. Ms. Carly, will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Item 7.231, mayoral appointment, deputy city chamberlain.
Motion, Councilor Bob, second, Councilor Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.232, authorized sale agreement, package 7.11-1-22.
Motion, Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion.
I just had a question. Where this is actually located?
It's right off of Boynton Avenue next to the old, it's not old, but where the Christmas Bureau is right now. It's like right in between that building, that there used to be a motorsports building and I think it's a Rite Aid or some type of pharmacy right there. It's a driveway. And it's a very small, narrow area, of that, street, but that driveway is the right of way to buildings behind there.
Okay.
So I believe, did I explain, can I
Yes,
explain that? Sure. Who made that offer? Yep. One of the building owners that need that driveway, if there's a warehouse back there, one of the building owners purchased that property. Definitely secure.
We had previously advertised for sale, and that's the only offer we received. So that resolution allows us to sell that property which we received following a foreclosure proceeding. And it's a straight up and down vote because they're offering more than what we said value.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 7233 has been withdrawn.
Item 7.234, type 1 seeker declaration and lead agency for Creighton Memorial Civic Center demolition.
Motion, Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. We'll do roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. Discussion.
What are we doing with it? I thought we were doing this together.
So, yeah, we are.
Yep.
So this is some housekeeping. We've gone through the secret dance on a handful of times, but just for a refresher. Any certain actions, quote unquote actions, trigger a secret review by the city. The level of that review depends on the size of the action. In this case, the proposal is to demolish the Creek Center. That triggers a type 1 review, which triggers a long form environmental assessment form, because of the size of the structure is around 45,000 to 50,000 square feet. Typically, if it was 100,000 square feet or larger, it would require a less formal secret review. But because this property is adjacent to the Plattsburgh Bay, which is a national designated historic site, as well as parkland, there's a lower threshold for a trigger for a type 1 review, specifically it's 25% or more of the size of the structure. So in this case, because we're more than 25,000 square feet, that triggers a type 1 secret review. So the first resolution, or the resolution that's on the table right now, determines what I just said, determines that type 1 action, and also nominates the common council as lead agency to complete the secret review. In this case, there are no other involved agencies that were identified. So we can also determine that the common council is the appropriate lead agency. If and when this resolution is adopted, that's when we get to the part 2 of the secret form, where we go through that laundry list of questions, and we have that prepared, and we can go through that tonight. No matter what the result is of that part 2 analysis, there's no intention to do a final secret decision tonight. That's just to get this step out of the way, because not only the time and the excitement of going through that form, but we're also going to be going through the same exercise likely on the 15th for local law for those previously. So for time management and to kind of get this step out of the way, we can run through the identification of potential environmental impacts, which is the part 2, that laundry list of questions. So, any other questions? That's kind of what we're doing right now. Does that make sense?
So are we going through questions?
If that's right, if the resolutions, right now, this is the stuff.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon? No. Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
No,
Carried.
Okay, so having that motion be carried, I would propose that we just review the part 2 of the long form environmental assessment form. It's pretty lengthy. There's 18 topic questions. If the topic questions are answered in the affirmative, then we have a laundry list of sub questions based on each topic question. If the topic question is answered in the negative, then we move on to the next question. Some are pretty obvious, some will lead to some discussion. A good secret review does have a good discussion. For timing purposes, the goal is to find a consensus amongst the board. So we're not, I don't anticipate or hope we don't do a roll call or a vote every single time. But if there's some ones where clearly a controversial kind of discussion, then yeah, we should do a roll call. The two, remember there's one big topic question and it's a yes or no. If we do answer that as a yes, then we go through the smaller subtopic questions. And for those two categories, the options are no or small impact or moderate to large impact. So those are the two categories for the sub question. Does that all make sense? Okay. And again, the action that is proposed is the demolition of the Trade Center. So it's an existing structure. There are no proposals, at least in this action or that I'm aware of, for any future development. This is, you know, the street action of demolition. So with that, everyone ready to jump on the train? So the first question is whether the proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say what, but yeah, in this case, demolition that impacts the land, yeah. So, all right, so with that, we would go to the sub questions. So the first one is whether the proposed action may involve, and Matt's been actively involved, so if there's some factual question, we can lean on Matt to answer that, and a lot of this information was also provided in the environmental assessment form, and a lot of the studies that Matt involved. So the first question is whether the proposed action may involve, again, it's all impact on land, whether this proposed great demolition may involve construction on land for depth to water table of less than 3 feet.
Yeah, so based on the geotechnical work that was done as part of the beach implementation plan about a little less than a year ago, they found the water table in the area of the grades to be in excess of 10 feet down.
So with that, the options are no or moderate to large. Impact. There'd be no. No.
No, right.
Okay, next one is proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 50% or greater. Again, no or small or moderate to large.
It's flat.
Yeah,
It's just a area of the bottom
So
side.
that's no, that's no.
Okay, next one is proposed action may involve construction on land or bedrock is proposed generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. The geotechnical survey, how far is the bedrock?
Average 20 feet.
Yeah, so the proposed action may involve the excavation or and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material.
What's happening post demo? Is there
They're
gonna be,
removing the foundations to 3 feet below grade, but they're not removing any natural material, any dirt that's there staying on it.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases.
The proposed schedule that we're submitting for approval to the council next week, the demolition schedule is 14 weeks, so far less than 1 year.
Again, no.
Proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including herbicide treatment.
I don't know.
Do we have any information relating to that?
Wait, can you repeat that again?
The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including herbicide treatment.
Oh, yeah.
So after they remove the foundations, they are backfilling the hole with clean fill, and then putting grass seed on top of it and watering it. So there actually be more green space that results at the end of this than there exists now. So my view would be no or small.
Next one to know is whether it's in a coastal erosion hazard area, which is not a designation for this. All right, so that's we talked about land. I remember there's 18 of these, so I'm just gonna try to go as efficient as we can. Next one,
we'll take time, folks. I appreciate the patience. It just takes time.
big topic sentence impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site.
No.
Okay, so we move on to the next topic sentence. For topic, degree, impact on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. Yes or no?
No.
Impact on groundwater, number 4. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or aquifer.
No.
No.
Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding.
No.
Is that land under flooding?
I'm sorry.
Do you have any data that indicates or?
So looking at the FEMA floodplain maps for 100-year and 500-year, those areas do encroach upon the area that we're talking about. So as in the interest of taking a hard look, it might be best to say yes to this and go with the question one by one.
Yeah, do that then.
Again, but the question is development. As opposed to that's anticipating new construction.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Which is being returned to.
Exactly.
Kind of a, so, but
In that case, if the question is pertinent to development, then would that be no, or should
If
it?
there were things being proposed for actual construction rather than deconstruction and demolition, I would say yes, but since this specifically says development. Yeah.
So it's a no.
No, it's a no.
its impact on air. And just to give you a heads up, there's other later impacts on kind of air quality. The sub questions are really designed for some kind of hazardous combustion site, like a waste disposal site. So, but the proposed action may include a state regulated air pollution source. Yes or no? Oh, which is not, it's a a plant that was burning fossil fuels or generating power or disposing of waste through.
Would it kind of be like similar to like how the compost plant uses
That would be state regulated. There are other questions later on about impact on emissions from construction.
So no.
7, impacts on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. Yes or no?
No.
No.
8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources.
No.
9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
No.
Impact on historic and archaeological resources. Number 10, the proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. In that case, I already explained it is adjacent to a historic monument or designation for that.
So it's a yes. That's a yes.
All right, so that leads to the sub questions. Again, option being no and small or moderate to large. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site or district which is listed on the national or state register of historical places, or that has been determined by the commissioner to be eligible for such a listing.
Talking about buildings.
Sites.
Can you repeat that again?
The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site or district which is listed on the national or state register. Or eligible to the. Is this listed currently? So there's not.
Cumberland Bay is listed as a historic site because of the Apple Plattsburgh and the naval component of that battle that took place there. What this question is asking is proposed action of demolition of the crate resulting in a little to no or a moderate to large impact on the status of that historic site itself?
B, 10B, the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York, the SHPO's archaeological site survey inventory.
No, it doesn't have a designation. So no.
The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on the SHPO inventory.
So we had an archaeological study done of the entire beach property as part of the investigatory work for the implementation plan. They studied 2 areas at opposite sides of the property, nowhere near the crate, and found nothing that would, in their opinion, warrant further archaeological investigation. So my take on this one, a little bit down.
Middleton.
Okay, that's it for 10. For 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan.
Yes.
Yeah, this doesn't pose a reduction in recreation opportunity separate from the impact of open recreation space. So, yeah,
Yeah, open space and recreation.
yeah, open space and recreation opportunities.
All right, so now we go to sub questions. There's 4 of them. Number A, or letter A, 11A, the proposed action may result in an impairment of natural functions or ecosystem services provided by an undeveloped area, included but not limited to stormwater storage, nutrient cycling, and wildlife habitat.
No.
B, the proposed action may result in the loss of a current or future recreational resource.
Yes.
Okay, so is that, but the yes, is that a no, a small impact or moderate to large impact? That's the question.
And here lies the philosophical conversation in city plan.
Well, since
The
we don't take
recreation that was taking place in that facility relocated already, so I would say no. It's a small
It does say current or future, it doesn't say.
Yeah, current or future, I would say it's moderate to large. Well, and again, based on the numbers that we looked at, percentage wise population, I don't know that it really does bear out as moderate.
Yeah,
All right.
if we base it just on the population size impacted in the city or even in the county. Yes, it would be no. If we talk about future potential, I mean, like, it's really hard to understand or justify what that future potential would look like. So how do you answer that question?
Well, I mean, I think part of the issue is if we're looking at future potential and we're talking about the building now, there's problems with the building that are inherent. So currently, there's not a lot of future potential.
Future potential is using that field for soccer or anything else that we use, so. The future is that it will be recreational use, it can, and most likely will be used for recreational use.
So, like I said, my relationship is no impact. We want to go to.
Yeah, it feels like this one is like on that line of put it to some type of trouble.
Sure.
Show of hands maybe, or just a roll call.
We're recording, so.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilman
No, I'm sorry, hold on.
Struggle, I'm just saying we have a record of it, so
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, a verbal record.
we're recording it, so we can go back to the question.
Okay, we'll just do a verbal roll call. It's a straw poll.
So I guess the question is, the proposed action may result in the loss of the current or future recreational resource. And, I guess to pick one or the other, whether that's gonna be moderate to large. Yes or no, so all who think that the moderate to large. Raise your hand.
Yeah, all who say that it's a moderate to large show,
You would just say aye.
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
Moderate to large.
Aye. Do a roll call, because I don't understand.
But yes. We have- I
Moderate to
think we've
large,
done this before.
moderate to large, Mel,
No.
Kelly,
No.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Callan? No. Bob,
No.
Moore?
Yes.
Yes, and Moore.
So that would be, you would vote to break a tie. So when you're trying to find consensus.
Yep.
That would be no according to. Okay, C, 11C, the proposed action may eliminate open space or recreational resource in an area with two such resources.
No. No.
Go with no, we're looking at those same windows, because it's an enclosed building, it doesn't really qualify as open space, right? Oh, okay, it's limited, yeah.
Okay. D. The proposed action may result in the loss of an area now used informally by the community as an open space resource.
No.
12, impact on critical environmental area. In this case, that's a term of art. This is not a critical environmental area. So, good enough, leave it in for now. 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation system.
No,
No.
Impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. But
No.
15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Yes or no?
Wait a second, if it has an impact on the lighting?
The proposed action may result in an increase in noise,
Increase.
odors, or outdoor lighting.
The demo.
The demo
Like
itself.
how, what would be the noise impact for, like, I'm assuming it's done in the day, so there's really no light impact, but.
It'd be done during the day, and the proposed method of demolition is using a series of excavators to rip the building down piece by piece. So there's no explosives proposed to be used, just whatever noise is created by that construction equipment as they're built.
I guess we all know about how far is a posted resident.
It's to the other side of Route 9, it's about between 750 and 1,000 feet.
So then it's
So no.
yes,
no.
No.
just gonna make noise, so.
Well, can you, just so that we can be clear on what we're saying, can you say that again? Can you repeat the question?
15, the proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
It's or, it's noise or odor or light, it's going to create noise. That's gonna be an impact, so I would say yes.
I'd say no, because more you. So I would say no.
Is there some caveat to like the noise? Is it like beyond what's that reasonably acceptable or?
Well,
is it beyond
that's
what- codified?
low or small or moderate to large. That's where the detailed questions get into underneath.
Okay, well then, let's go with yes, because it is possible somebody could live nearby that is very sensitive to sound. So let's say yes and go to the sub questions.
I would say no, because when they're doing the Saranac River cleanup right here, my office is right there, and during the day, it's not. What's going on right now? Keep it there.
We'll do roll call, please, just so,
Done a yes or no.
Yeah.
If it's yes, we'll go to sub questions. If no, we'll move on.
yes to that, 15, yes to item 15, roll call.
Counselor Canales,
No.
Counselor Kelly,
No.
Counselor Gibb,
Yes.
Counselor Talon. No. Counselor Bach,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes,
3 yes and 3 no.
I'll say no.
Mayor,
I'll say no.
Okay, almost there. 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. No.
Do we know what well? We know that there's a lot of disrepair inside, but what contaminants are in the building? Is there asbestos in there? I mean, is KES?
Asbestos is the only identified hazardous material, and that will be abated, removed, and disposed of in accordance with the appropriate regulations. And that includes the use of misting water when they're tearing it up, so that any dust created is kept on site and not drifting anywhere else.
Does the amount matter, or is it just? There's asbestos, and then we know, by the way, that that's not news. We know that there's, based on the asbestos survey that we did on a number of buildings, we know that there is some asbestos on the Crate Center, but it's not throughout the building. It's very targeted around the HVAC systems on the roof. So the removal of that is going to be very targeted, but it's still present. But does that lend itself to how to answer this question?
My view on this would be no, the crews that are doing the abatement are required to wear all the required protective material. They will be by far the closest people to those hazardous materials as they're being abated. And the regulations are designed to limit or, as close to completely eliminate as is practical any of that contamination drifting off the project site where it might be encountered or affecting.
Is there any screening proposed to public way while it's trying, like, from wandering over?
Yeah, it'll be a protective fence set up around the demolition site.
This also just as a reminder, the building that we tore down, the northern bathhouse probably has more asbestos in that than we're talking about in Crate, at this point, so, something to keep in mind, that we did that job relatively, with relative ease.
So I think the answer is no or small.
This one's yes or no.
Oh, okay, now.
No, so.
17, consistency with community plan. Proposed action is inconsistent with adopted land use plans.
No.
Last but not least, number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed action is inconsistent with the existing community character.
What does that mean?
That's a great question.
Community character, what does that mean?
That's a term of our design, really designed for a new development, whether you're gonna have a gas station in a residential neighborhood or multi-use facility in the downtown area.
Kind of like, I've seen things like that. I've seen things like that. Yeah, that's, so, so the question is, will demolition of the building be inconsistent with community character? Is that the question?
I would like to say no to that because it's an open space. There's a beach there already. It's a beautiful place.
Right,
and
right.
Removing that building will only make it more beautiful. I would say no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a no.
I'm gonna say yes. Or should we bring it?
Yeah, put it both ways. All in favor of it changing community character, see that,
Whether this proposal is inconsistent with the existing community character. So a yes would say it is inconsistent, and no would say it's. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
No,
Counselor Gibb?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yeah.
Counselor Bach?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
no.
Mayor, no?
Okay, so that's it. There's no resolution. There will be a resolution in the future, but there's no resolution tonight. That resolution, in essence, with all of those answers, would be a negative declaration based on that analysis we just completed. But we didn't know what was going to happen, so we just prepared that.
So is this considered a negative declaration?
That's really the only reasonable conclusion, having gone through that part two, having identified no moderate to large impact. But again, we inappropriately just prejudged what that answer is going to be, so it is prepared for tonight, but it would be necessary to have that resolution done before there's any award or any contracts or any demolition.
So is this going to trigger secret part or type 2 secret for the 15th?
I'll rephrase your question. It will trigger a final resolution to adopt a negative declaration having completed part two.
But we only
We
completed
just
part
did,
one.
we know, part one was the application or like the form itself, the form, part two is what we just did.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
part three is final step where you make the conclusion as to the environmental impact.
And we are doing that,
And yeah,
and that's probably the 15th.
yeah.
So Dean, can I ask a question about, I don't know if this is a question that I can ask now, or if I should wait for new business, but it goes to something that you said earlier.
We'll simply fast forward. There is an executive session, counselor, so.
No, I meant new business. I'm sorry.
No, I know that, but I'm just gonna forward the agenda to new business, so we get past the executive session section and, just call for new business and just continue the conversation.
Okay, so, if I'm understanding you correctly, at the very beginning of the process, you said there were going to be no other agencies involved. So do we know if demolition of the building, is going to require any kind of DEC input, or we had on a park agency because it's lakefront private, or any other agencies going to need involvement in what we do with that property?
I'll let Matt confirm, but there's no discretionary approval that we're requesting. And for the demolition.
Required. There's no discretionary approval
From
required.
another agency requested or required, correct?
For just demolition?
Yeah.
Now, if we were gonna do anything else with the property, do you know
Sure.
if we would need?
Yeah, if say, for example, we were gonna try to alienate or sell the parcel, that would trigger a lot of approval from New York State legislature. Or depends on the project, if there was some kind of variance required and we didn't assert governmental immunity, that would require zoning code. There's a host of speculative options for development. So sure. But we don't know if there's nothing proposed that we're discussing right now, so it's hard to answer that.
Okay, so we would only pursue that if there was something
Something
proposed
that
going.
we should do.
Something to do outside of just returning it to green space or using it as our green space. Specific to like building something, right? So that would definitely require outside agency approval or review.
To return it to green space, are there any restrictions there, or? Because at one point it was wetlands, does it need to be returned to wetlands? Do we have any understanding about?
No,
requirements on
yeah,
that?
we're not filling that site, it's not a wetland where we're putting fill into a wetland. So. Nothing based on putting the green space triggers any review. Matt, do you have any other input?
Well, if you recall if you recall the implementation plan and the geotechnical work that was done, there was a wetland delineation map provided, and it did not include the area around the Great Center. There were areas, and there are areas in the beach designated. Well, there are areas that were identified as potential wetlands, but that was not around the Great or the Great Site itself. That's staying right now.
The tarmac is gonna stay?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out another plan for that, but there's no recommended plan or further action to take on removing that right now. There's a number of, people use it for parking, we use it for snow storage and nothing to do with it right now.
I had some questions on the budget, on the capital plan. Do you want me to just pose questions and we'll answer them next week at finance meeting, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, like, ask them at the finance meeting. I don't think this is the platform for.
Well, that way the managers could probably get those answers prepared more easily.
We'll record your questions and then answer them.
Okay.
next week.
So, looking at the capital budget breakdown that we've got, and I have some questions about, some of the projects that are in here, as well as the funding source. So item number 4 on the capital budget, sanitary sewer, there's an item in here, commemoration for bridge CSO for 2.5 million. I don't know what that is. So I was hoping to get a clarification on that. Item number 5, or section 5, storm sewer construction, Underwood Avenue separation for $1 million, and it looks like funding sources the general funds. So I had some questions on what that project was. The number 12. The beach infrastructure and site improvement over on the right side, the source, says EPF / general fund is the source, and I didn't know what EPF meant. Just looking at it like that. There are a lot of projects in here on the right side under funding source. The way that it's explained, it'll say sewer reserve / bonds. It'll say general fund. some of these things that have like chip slash general, I'm wondering if we could get an explanation about how much of these projects, and in particular, I'm looking at 2023 and 2024. If we could get an explanation what the breakdown is going to be for how much are we planning to take out of chips, how much we're planning to take out of general fund, anywhere where these big projects are listed. Because from my own research, it would seem that we don't have a lot of money in chips, and wondered if we could get a breakdown of that as well, like how much we have in chips to spend for 2023 and where that's going to be allocated, because we see that in a lot of places in the budget. So I was hoping we could get a clarification on that. I see that we don't have any money in the capital budget to do any repairs on the farmer's market. The roof still leaks in that building very badly. When we had the Climate Smart event there, one of the vendors who participated, her things were ruined by a leaking roof. So I don't know what the will of the council is, but I think that we should put some money into capital budget to repair that building. I have a question also on page 44 of the Munis report. So this isn't really the capital budget so much as our debt service payment. So Richard, I don't know if this is a question you can answer now, or you just want to answer it next week. Looks like our debt service is $3.6 million on page 44 of the Munis report. And I thought the last conversation we had, when we talked about an update on the debt service was going to be 2.8 million, but the budget here says 3.6.
That's on the debt service fund itself.
Page 44 of that.
That's the total.
Right.
So you can see the individual funding that makes that up.
Okay.
I think that fund was 2,084,000 for general fund, 5 million for water fund, so forth. 5,000 roughly for library. There is an amendment to that because that final debt service numbers on the ban for next year's payment in November, which would reduce the general fund total by 26,000, and reduce the water fund total by 96,000, and that budget total would go down by about 53,000 net because of also an increase in the reserve because of the bond premium this garnered from funding, getting the funding from the bank. In order to buy the rate down to 4.17% of the bid, they submitted a $68,000 premium back to the city as part of the proceeds.
Okay.
So there is an amendment proposed that I'm proposing because we didn't have back in July any idea what the debt service was going to be on the bank because we were looking at 16 million back then. So a lot of things transpired to take it down to 11,057,000, and also the interest rate change from 3.5% to 4.5% in that short period of time. So I should recommend that service funders to be amend the mayor's budget and make it the council level budget and say, here's the next step. That's the way the budget process works. The mayor's budget's put in place in October. The council decides on what to put amendments into, so that would be the next level. And then once it's adopted, it goes to the adopted level of the budget process. So I hope that answers the question about the debt service. The overall total for the city, including MLD, which isn't on that page, is 4.6 million.
Right, I knew MLD has its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm especially concerned when I look at the 5-year plan, that we agreed and adopted back in the summertime. That service payment of 3.6 million is more than what we had forecasted. And so at the end of in this budget, at the end of 2022, we forecasted $5.8 million in general fund, which I think sounds
from what I can see in this budget is on target, plus extra money that we have from ARPA. But a 3.6 million debt service payment by the end of 2024 wipes out the general fund. And in 2025, we don't have enough money in general fund to make that payment. We are running out of money a year earlier than this 5-year plan. And I thought that's something that we should discuss.
The debt service number increased pretty dramatically from when we put that plan together till now, because we didn't anticipate having a $7 million project for the Lake Country Village water system.
Right, but nonetheless, these are the numbers.
Yeah.
And, sorry, so it's dry. And we're looking at a very large project concerning Margaret Street. Large,
It's mostly going to be funded by that touring fund, money from the real estate.
some of it's touring fund, but according to this, also general fund. So I'm concerned about the amount of debt that we're taking on. And that we are spending faster than we're gonna be able to replenish and, gonna run out of money soon. That's my concern.
It's a valid concern.
So those are the things that I'm hoping we can get some answers on for next week's finance meeting.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you.
Any new business? Seeing none, I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.